Are you ready to hopefully be a little bit less overwhelmed and actually start managing and pushing through your tasks as an entrepreneur? If this is your first time on my channel, my name is Lai. I run a virtual assistant agency here in the Philippines called 2XU, and I post videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home. So make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos. Now, as an entrepreneur, as my business is growing and going through basically a lot of new things, one thing that has started happening a bit is just a little bit of that task overwhelm. And one thing that I do want to reassure you, wherever you're at in your entrepreneur journey, whether you're just starting out, you are in the baby stage, teenager stage, whatever stage you're at in your business, is there always be a little bit of the time where you do get that overwhelm of everything louder than everything else. That's basically what I call it. And even if you have all of the systems in place, even if you do start implementing what I'm about to walk you guys through, there will be a time still where you have to review and go through your processes of how you got to that task overwhelm. So what I want to walk you through today is how to make sure that you have systems in place to support you even as you go through that task overwhelm, like gaps basically. So in the last about 4 years of running 2XU and the 3 years before that running a different business, I have learned a lot of different ways to manage myself and manage my tasks. So even though, as again, things are ramping up and I'm going through a little bit of that task overwhelm, I'm still able to know what my priorities are to be able to start cleaning them through, and I know I have a way to fall back. So what I'm actually going to walk you through is my own system of how I keep myself productive, how I keep my own goals in mind and myself aligned to everything else that's going on inside of 2XU. Now, the first thing that you definitely want to do is doing a brain dump. So what I mean by brain dump is most of the time we feel overwhelmed because we're holding too many things in our head. And I've had a lot of these moments where I know when my brain feels too full, I will whip out my iPad and I will just start writing anything that comes out. I will write it with my pen, or if I don't have my iPad, I will go through it and do it on my laptop. And it's just me for 10 minutes, and you can set a timer for 10 minutes of just writing down, hey, these are things that, again, doesn't necessarily to be things that need to get done, but just things in your head. So it could be things like calling my dad, or things like I need to buy this for my home, or I ran out of this so I need to do this for groceries, or I need to get back to this client, I need to create this system basically moving forward, or create this document for the company. So whatever that looked like for me, I'm going to write all of that down into that document. Again, I switch between using my iPad or just typing it into my Notion page, but it's just a way to get everything, hopefully everything out of your head, so you're not holding anything in. That way you have actually written down some sort of clarity on what should be the things that you need to do next. Now, naturally, the next thing that usually happens when you do a brain dump is you hit a little bit of like, wait, I still have the things that I needed to do here, or the things I was working on. So the next step is actually going back to zero. What I mean by this is anything that's been on your pending, the things that we're doing, at this point, they're back to zero. They're back basically to what I like calling as my bucket. So my bucket is basically all the things that I just dumped in there. So everything doesn't matter anymore. I'm just putting it all back into my bucket. And usually after you get back to zero, then you want to start sorting and processing them. Now, what I use for sorting and processing is using the Eisenhower matrix. Now, if you have no idea what it is, although I've talked about it a lot in previous videos, but it's basically sorting your tasks, your projects, your thoughts into 4 quadrants. The first one is your do. These are the tasks that are urgent and important. You need to get done now. There's also the tasks that are not urgent. They might not have a deadline, or they might not be as urgent as the other ones. They can be done within the next week. These are the not urgent and important tasks. So that's your second column. And then you have basically the urgent and not important tasks. The reason why they become your delegate list is usually those tasks are the ones that might not be as important to you, but they need to get done by someone else. So that's why they are still urgent but not important. So these are usually the ones that you just put and give to someone else. And lastly, you have the not urgent and not important files, which you then ask yourself, why was that even there in the first place? So as an entrepreneur, your value for time is so much bigger than if you were the one still starting out your business, because your value now as an entrepreneur is moving things forward, is in growing the business. So you need to start thinking in those 4 quadrants. So then it's easier for you to start knowing what are things you should be working on right now versus things that you can give to someone else or delay to do sometime in the future, or scheduling it out on your calendar, which we'll talk about in a little bit. So as you go through the Eisenhower matrix, for me, the way that I do it is I will look at the ones that are in the do column first, in the urgent and important, and I would do anything that's less than 2 minutes. So this is coming from Getting Things Done by David Allen. Anything less than 2 minutes, I just get it done. I just get it off of my plate. That way it's all done. Now, what do you do with the rest? What do you do with the ones that are urgent because they need to get done within the next 3 days or the next week, and the tasks that are not so urgent, they don't have a deadline yet? That's where you basically, instead of just planning it, you process through these tasks, these projects, these thoughts. So that's why you do the tasks first, so they're just, again, out of your head. Then you want to start processing through what that looks like for you. So you want to process them through, is this a project? Is this a task? Is this just a thought? Is this a note that I can save somewhere else? Then you want to start scheduling when you actually want to start thinking about them. So for the tasks that need to get done within the next 3 days, 1 week, 1 month, so on and so forth, you want to actually put in your own deadlines of the estimate of when you actually want to even just start thinking of them, not even doing them, but start thinking of getting them done. Next is, I want to make sure that you guys understand this as an entrepreneur, is you want to delegate what you can. That's the third column that we have on there. So what I mean by delegate what you can, so this is a very common question that I get a lot from incoming clients inside of 2XU, is what can I even give my assistant in the first place? And usually anything that's on that third column. So usually these are your recurring tasks, things that need to get done in the business to help run it, but not necessarily to grow it. So recurring tasks are things like your email, your calendar, your social media. These are things that you can easily get off of your plate, where it doesn't have to be you focusing on it, because again, you want to start focusing on the growth part of your business, right? So delegating as much as you can to a virtual assistant, to an employee of yours you might already have, is going to be key to getting things off of your plate, because then you are delegating that outcome to someone else. Now, I know that sounds scary. I know that sounds like, can they actually get the things that I need done actually done? But it is part of the process of learning to be an entrepreneur, is learning and mastering how to delegate. Now, if you think that you are ready for an assistant, go ahead and fill out our scorecard. It's 2xu.com/scorecard to see how ready you are for that next step in your business. But what I'm trying to talk about here on the delegation side is I want to give you a little bit of clarity on what that could look like. So another way that you can think about how to delegate tasks to an assistant is looking at it from an 80-20 standpoint. So this is coming from Pareto's law, or the 80-20 principle of, out of the 10 things you're doing in a day, 2 of them are growth. The rest can be delegated to someone else. Doesn't have to be necessarily done by you. So you want to start looking at that. Like in your day, you want to start categorizing from your brain dump, what are the things that only you can do to grow your business, and start looking at how you can delegate the rest. That way you can start mastering, like, oh, this shouldn't be part of my attention. I will put some thought into this so then I can start delegating this effectively to someone else. That is what I mean by delegating what you can. Definitely don't delegate something like your sales process, your marketing process, if it's not fleshed out, especially since it is key, of course, when it comes to growing your business. But you can delegate other things that can run in the background as you pursue basically growing and scaling your business. Next is you want to start going ahead and tracking your recurring tasks. Now, this is one of the things that gets stuck in our head, because we know that there are things that needs to get done every 5th of the month, 15th of the month, so on and so forth. So you want to just start creating a tracker for yourself that your assistant can hopefully help track for you, or even do for you. So perfect example always is, my assistant is the one who bumps basically our bookkeeper to start creating the invoices for the next month, so on and so forth. So we have a way that we know that things need to be run or done in the business that becomes this recurring theme or recurring way for us to track things as we move forward. So that's why you want to start looking at, okay, what are the daily, weekly, monthly things, quarterly, yearly things that need to be done in the business? So you don't have to keep them in your head. Again, the goal here is to not use your brain as a safe point. You want to use your brain for actually growing your business beyond the certain point that you are now. Next is you want to start creating your own method as you've now started clearing out, hopefully out of the task overwhelm, is you want to mix in a little bit of a GTD method, or getting things done method. Now, I've talked about it earlier in the video. But what I like to insert at this point basically is I want to look at basically the list of the tasks that I do have, the ones that I put into urgent and important, and the ones that might be in the not urgent and important. Hopefully you've delegated the rest. But I want to look at the ones that are essentially the not urgent but important tasks, and I want to start sorting them through and actually making sure that they have an action labeled to it. That's kind of the part of the getting things done that I like putting in. Sometimes we will put in something very vague of like, hey, call, this accountant. Okay, what for? So making that an actionable would be call accountant about changing bank accounts. That could be the actual action type. Usually we feel overwhelmed when we don't have a clear outcome or a clear thing that we're going towards. So of course we feel more overwhelmed than we should be. So adding in a little bit of a GTD of like, how can I get this done? So just changing the phrasing would really help. Plus, you want to also start thinking about how are you going to sort some of these that might not be action steps. They might be projects, they might be notes, they might be resources for you. So here comes in the PARA method. Now, the PARA method came from an amazing author, and I'm actually currently reading his book. It came from this, basically, Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte, which I am loving right now. But it's basically having different areas where you can now, in the future, start putting in from your bucket to actually into these different files or folders in your productivity space, wherever you're thinking about it for. So for example, for me, I have it in Notion. The first part of the PARA method is the P. These are usually projects that usually have a task and they're connected to a goal. So this is where my task list would now come from. The next A basically on there are areas. These are ongoing activities. They don't have a deadline. So in my own task tracker on Notion, I have a project side and an area side. So projects could be, again, things that have a end date, like us updating our onboarding systems or us going through and onboarding this certain client. Now, areas would be ongoing recruitment processes for 2XU. Areas could be ongoing marketing projects that we have that we're just kind of experimenting, and that's going to ongoing. Areas could be me redoing my place or moving or upgrading how I'm living my life. So that could be an area. The R are resources. These are your topics. These are your notes. These could be study materials you've gone through and you want to go back to. These could be YouTube videos that you've watched and you took notes. So you want to put them in a place where it's going to be easy for you to bring them up as you need it. And the last A are archives. So at any point, if you want to go back and see like, hey, when did we do this project? When did we do this task? You can go through the archive basically and just find them there. So that's kind of what the PARA method is. So as you've again done most of the urgent and important tasks, you want to start actually fully sorting the rest of that list that you came from your brain dump, and as well as maybe the tasks that you basically deferred back to zero. So you want to start looking at them and actually sorting them through, and hopefully actually using that system moving forward. So it's going to be easy for you or your assistant to actually fill that out and clean that out as well. Next is, as you now have hopefully a good task list, you have a project list, you have your notes in other places, it's not mixed into your to-do. The next step is to go ahead and start time blocking or just prioritizing some focused time. So I know for some people, time blocking doesn't really work. So I try to give another option of just having a time or just having a way that you know what your next priority is. So time blocking is basically you put in basically 2 hours of just focusing on this one outcome. It doesn't have to be a task, it's an outcome that you're trying to get done. On the other side, if time blocking doesn't fit right with you, it's making sure that you have a good system for yourself on knowing what the next action step is. This is why it's really important that you review your task list often so you can always have the priority ones on top. What are your urgent and important tasks? Now, you can definitely have your own assistant as well. Make sure that those are on top of your list and you're cleaning things up as much as you can, as much as possible. But that's why it's important to maybe have a mix of both. Maybe you know that this is a priority task for the day, so you've scheduled every 9 o'clock that this is the thing that you're going to work on. Or you saw that on your calendar, like, hey, I have this good chunk of time between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock. I want to make sure that I get this and this and this task done. So it doesn't have to be an outcome. It could be a variety of tasks that you know just needs to get done. So you can mix and match, again, depending on what works for you, because it's going to work well for different people. So find basically what is that state of flow they can get into. Doesn't have to be time blocking. can be prioritization, can be a mix of all the things that I've talked about so far in this video, but having that clarity of what works for you and experimenting really, really is important and essential. So then for you as an entrepreneur, you can start moving your schedule around. You know that you're the most efficient right in the morning. So anything, all of your meetings should be in the afternoon, as an example, as much as possible. Or if you're more efficient in the afternoon, doing the same thing, making sure all your meetings are in the morning. So depending on, as time goes on, finding like, hey, time blocking works, like, hey, prioritization works, like, hey, the Pomodoro method works. So whatever that could be for you, stick with it, experiment. And basically the last part of this is have a weekly review of what actually worked, what combination can work as well. So the whole point of this, of you trying to figure out what is a good task management style, is so you can actually get things done. So you avoid the overwhelm, avoid a little bit of the burnout. The burnout will be inevitable when you're an entrepreneur, but at least you can bounce back easier because you have systems to catch you. Versus right now, if you don't have systems, you're basically ramping yourself up. You can get a lot done, and then all of a sudden you have all of these things that need to get done. If you didn't have systems, you just fall flat. But you have systems, so then you can bounce back easier, so you don't have to fall all the way down. So hopefully that was clear enough to illustrate why it's important for you to have a really good task management system as an entrepreneur. And of course, if you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there and comment below, what task management system do you like to use? I would love to know. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button right there so you don't miss any of my videos every Sunday and Thursday on how to work from home and how to have a business from home, which you guys can check out those two playlists right here and the latest video right here. Now, hope you guys have an amazing day, and remember that small steps matters, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!